table?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Keenan.
Help me understand this. Unfortunately not. I believe that our rules of procedure don't allow for a resolution to come up and voted on the same day. What do you believe that in section C5 says that supervisors would bring it up during supervisor's time and then vote it on at the next meeting?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keenan. I'd like to defer to the County Attorney, Ms. Noble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rules of procedure under section F, item 2, state that, I apologize. First it is in section C. Back to section F, item 2. It says the chairman with the county executive shall prepare an agenda for each meeting. The rules of procedure use the words member, meaning all members of the board, the chair and the supervisors. It uses the word chairman for the chair. It uses the word individual supervisor for individual district supervisors. It states that the chairman with the county executive shall prepare an agenda for each meeting. So the chairman is the one that determines what is placed on the agenda. If you then look at section C, number 5, there are 3 ways that an individual supervisor can have an item placed on the agenda. The first one is if an individual supervisor announces his intent for the board to seek action at a future meeting. The second one, which references section F2A, says an individual supervisor in coordination with the chairman shall provide the clerk with a resolution. So that's the second way that the individual supervisor can get something on the agenda. And then the third way is to waive the rules of procedure. So pursuant to the rules of procedure, the chairman has the right to set the agenda and place a matter on the agenda, and the items to be then dispatched with the agenda.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Keenan.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. It's your interpretation, which has not been an interpretation this board has enjoyed the last 4 years since I wrote this section, because we held Chairman Stewart to the standard that any person on this board couldn't just bring forward a resolution and vote it on the same day. Now, it's not just for our health that that's the situation. The idea behind that kind of resolution is that it gives an opportunity for the citizens to weigh in with their individual supervisor on a certain topic. It specifically was meant to prohibit an out-of-control chairperson from doing whatever they want to do. So what you're saying was that the chairperson can basically do whatever they want to do as far as introducing a resolution. They just throw it on the agenda. It doesn't have to come before the board for any discussion, and it gets voted on the same day.
Madam Chair, I have not been asked my legal opinion before with regards to the rules of procedure on this, but section F, number 2, says the chairman with the county executive shall prepare an agenda for each meeting. So the chairman prepares the agenda and gets the item presented to the clerk for dispatch. Legally, as I've stated before to the board, anytime there's a quorum, the majority may act. These rules of procedures are not legally binding, and the board places it upon themselves at their discretion. But if you look at the drafting of section C5A 2i, it also then references section F2A that says an individual supervisor in coordination with the chairman shall provide the clerk a written resolution in a timely fashion for inclusion on the published agenda for the next meeting. And that is not done during the board meeting. So those are 2 other ways that an individual supervisor can place something on the rules, on the agenda.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Keenan.
Thank you. Although I disagree with that interpretation, because that is definitely something that is news to, I think, those of us who have served on the board. I think that's also news to most of the folks who are sitting out in the audience today, and it's news to my constituents, whether you're on one side of this issue or the other. So I think the right thing to do would be to move this to our next meeting. It might end up passing. I'm not saying that this is going to determine how this vote goes, but I at least think that this board, ironically on the same day that we passed our rules of procedure, is at least seemingly to a lot of people ignoring those rules. I move that we postpone this vote to our next meeting, our next evening meeting, so at least we can show the folks, again, regardless of how this ends up voting, at least we can show the citizens that we respect them enough to give them an opportunity to weigh in on this.
On the floor, discussion. Mr. Hanlon, would you also, I would like to have it next Tuesday evening to give as many Prince William County residents the opportunity to participate, exercise their First Amendment rights. Evening session rather than an afternoon session.
Madam Chair.
Defer to Mr. Supervisor Andrew, I have a chance to speak in.
So I just want to be really clear on what this is. So December 10th, we voted, and it was 6-2, I was a 2, got it. And this is a constitutional county. So that constitutional county status is not up for debate. That's not changing. I just want to be real clear on that. All right, and the original intent was the sanctuary county, and I just heard that a lot tonight. So I want to be sure that everybody understands that that's not what this is about. This is a constitutional county that was approved, that's standing. I think I heard a lot of folks talking about the gun safety of this resolution and, recognizing the fact that we need to do more with that. I will say I heard a lot tonight, just as I heard on December 10th, that really raised a lot into exactly Supervisor Campbell's point of your voice. I mean, we would all recognize that we have a problem and we need to find solutions on a together front. So I just want to make sure that that's understood here as we go forward in this discussion.
Supervisor, yes.
Respecting Supervisor Campbell's concerns, what I really want to say is the intent of this board, I'm sure collectively, is to always respect the citizens and to hear the citizens' voices. We did respect and heard the citizens' voices. And I just wanted, for a point of clarity, even with the cajoling in the audience, we do honor and respect. So I just merely wanted to say that, not to recite anything other than honor and respect for the citizens. So I'm sure you would agree with that.
Why are we here?
Supervisor Campbell.
I was just willing to say that I was fine with her friendly amendment or change to make it that we would do it the next evening.
I will say that we had it on the agenda, and it was actually pretty well known, as evidenced by all the people that showed up and spoke tonight. We have heard people's voices. I know that there was a thought that we snuck it in the afternoon meeting because we changed it from the evening meeting. It was never intended to have it at the evening meeting. Because I felt that we should, our legislature starts next week. We're giving them, this is adding to our legislative agenda. It needs to get on. I called all the supervisors and let them know that I was putting it on. And then it went out dispatch last Friday. I know that people are aware of it. I don't feel like people haven't been aware of what we're doing here today. So in that regard, I do not feel that we need to wait another week and do this again. I don't think.
I'm actually pretty dismayed with the comment that it was never intended to be at an evening meeting. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and to expect that on an issue this controversial and personal and
Constitutional!
part of the national constitution to say, well, it was never intended to be at a meeting where the most people can be there. It was always intended to be at a meeting where most people are going to be at work. It troubles me great. And I think that's one of the budget votes in the evening. Give people the grace share their thoughts, to share their opinions.
Thank you.
I'm not done yet. The fact that we don't have the opportunity to give those people evening session troubles.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You know, on December 10th, the board that you were on voted for a closed session evening meeting at 7:30. That's how that 7:30 session was added to the meeting list, right, for tonight. And I always, you know, when we had talked about talking about gun safety legislation, I said the first meeting that we would discuss it. And so I've always been really pretty consistent. I said we talked about it at the first meeting, and
No, you said you overturned the first meeting.
not to overturn the December 10th. That's remaining in place. It's a constitutional county. But instructing our legislature, who are about to go down and start talking about bills and enacting laws, I think it's on our agenda today if we are going to do so.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Beck.
if I may, I just want to say that Chairman Stewart did allow his fellow board members the opportunity to digest his original resolution. And then they later came to an agreement of a watered-down version, if you will, of his original resolution. With that being said, I have some concerns about your proposed resolution. And my concern is that why I agree with Supervisor Cameron and Supervisor Lawson as to why we should wait. There is no rush. We're not going anywhere. Our delegates have a vision. We're not going anywhere either. This is a serious matter. This is your resolution put forth to address mental health issues, which we all can agree here. We support mental health. We support that. We're law-abiding citizens who own guns. But what this resolution fails, which 80% of it is about gun control. Nowhere here in your resolution do you dictate a plan as to how we're going to go about providing the mental health assistance that is needed in this county. So I think that it's only fair to the citizens that showed up here, to every member of this board, to allow enough time to digest the original resolution and to really come to a common ground. If this is really about mental health and providing additional services that this county needs, we need to talk about this, and we do not need to rush, and we certainly do not need to make our law-abiding citizens feel threatened at their rights.
So a couple points I'd like to make. First of all, I didn't know that you had planned to take up this issue on the first meeting of the year. When I saw you at the menorah lighting around the holiday season, you said, you know, we're not going to reverse your constitutional resolution. We may pass something related to gun legislation, but I don't recall you saying that we were going to do it the first meeting of the year. Regardless, when you called me to tell me that it was going to be on the agenda, I didn't ask you specifically, is it the afternoon? I knew that we had an evening meeting, and I knew that it was actually a board vote that we took like in November or December to add an evening meeting to tonight. But for all intents and purposes, we can certainly have an open session meeting, take up a Second Amendment vote like this, and then go into closed session to discuss security matters, which, by the way, I do find ironic that tonight we will be learning about how we are protected while we're here in the board chambers. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I personally didn't know that this was going to be something that the chair wanted to take up on the very first meeting of the year. When it comes to mental health, Supervisor Vega couldn't put it any better. We, of course, everybody wants to see dramatic improvements to serving citizens that suffer from mental health issues. Their families need it. And what I find really interesting, but typical of the left, very typical of them, is they jump to what they think are solutions based on emotion, and rather than take up time to make a study to really reduce gun violence in Virginia, and improve mental health. In a special session last summer, they rejected any offers from the Republican legislators to take time to work together in a bipartisan fashion and find meaningful changes to our mental health system, additional funding, and possibly some changes to some gun laws that are existing. I personally don't believe that we just need to keep throwing laws on the books. Statistics have proven over and over that criminals do not care what the laws are. Study result from what's called JLARC, and that's the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission. And this was specifically for mental health and how we in Virginia can improve our community services for mental health patients. And it's many pages long. And guess what, folks? This took our state legislators in Richmond 6 years, and we're still working and have a long ways to go for mental health improvements, especially the funding. And Governor Northam just announced in his budget that he's actually going to slow walk this a little bit more. It was supposed to be fully implemented by 2021, and we're learning that we got such high hurdles to clear and a lot of money to fund to really improve mental health, which we all know is the core of this problem. And it took them 6 years, but yet the Democrats want to rush to gut your Second Amendment rights, and that's what my biggest concern is let's slow this down. Let's tell our legislators not to rush to gut the Second Amendment rights and work in a bipartisan fashion down in Richmond and see where you can find some common ground and what's effective. And that's what my concerns are about this. I mean, red flag laws, I've learned more than I ever thought I would need to know about guns as a district supervisor. And I've learned what red flag laws are in Maryland and California. They are creating pandemonium, and in some cases, especially in Maryland, death. So I suggest that we slow this down and do it in a methodical way.
I'd like to take a call for a vote on whether we are going to continue this.
I may have a question. I would also like to know if you sought the advisory opinion of our Weapons Control Committee.
No, I did not.
Is there a reason why?
This is a general resolution to put forth to our legislature about gun safety control and violence prevention. This is not a law that's being enacted. This is just a general idea that we're sending to our state legislature.
We don't bypass the planning. Madam Chair, if I may, we don't bypass the planning commission before deciding on land use cases, do we? And it seems to me that we have a lot of people talking that lack knowledge on gun safety. To really allow all of us to have a seat at the table, to come together, to have open discourse, dialogue about this issue that's very important to the citizens of Prince William County and to the state of Virginia, and to send a message to Richmond that, you know what, here in Prince William County, we're putting aside party affiliation and we're working for the people of this great Commonwealth.
That's what they were elected to do, and I trust that they will do that. What we were elected to do was to give guidance to, if we, excuse me, do I need to have you removed? For whether we continue until the next session about this resolution. A vote for yes would be in favor of tabling it tonight. A vote no would be we continue the discussion on this resolution.
Point of order. I don't think the chair can call the question. Madam Chair? Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, can I just make one? I'm waiting for you to acknowledge me if you're ready.
Supervisor Cameron.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one thing clear on what you're calling. That I'm not looking to table it, I'm looking to postpone it until next meeting. Well, normally tabling means you're just gonna put it there and forget about it. Postpone it until our next evening meeting, to give folks a chance to come in. And I'll tell you, just kind of, I'll sneak in my comments now that I start talking.
Supervisor Cannon,
But the thing is, we're not looking to determine the color of our county seal. We're not looking to determine some sort of procedural issue. We got this on our Second Amendment rights. We got this a few days ago. And you're wanting this board to come to an opinion on something that none of us, well, at least I don't think the Republicans had any advance warning on this or noticed that whether this was going to be the language. This is a pretty serious issue that we're taking an opinion on and sending our opinion down to Richmond. I think we can wait a week to give at least
I spoke with county staff, I talked to law enforcement of Prince William County, I consulted the police chief. I didn't just do this in a vacuum, so everyone's aware. And so, at this point, I'd like to take a vote on whether we're going to postpone until next week.
Madam Chair. Thanks. What I would suggest, folks, I know that there's a lot of emotion out there. This is a very serious matter, a matter of high magnitude when we're talking about our Bill of Rights. But what I would ask is that you do respect the chair and not shout from the board chamber. That really doesn't help any of us up here. And I'm really gonna ask that you not do that. I find it disrespectful, and we do our best to deliberate up here in a professional manner. We certainly have our disagreements up here, but I would just ask that you not disrespect the chair like some did. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Lawson. I believe I'm allowed to call for a vote. I'm calling for a vote on postponing it until next week. A vote for yes would be to postpone it, a vote to no would be to continue the discussion tonight. Please vote.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can you repeat what you said?
I said a yes vote would be for postponing it until next week. A no vote would mean we would continue the discussion and discuss the motion tonight.
Motion fails.
We see you, Andrew.
Supervisors Bailey, Hanlon, Lawson, and Vega voting aye. Supervisors Angry, Bodie, Franklin, and Wheeler voting nay.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion on item 10A?
Okay, let me call you when we're done.
Do I hear a second?
Okay.
Supervisor Franklin, do I hear a second? So we can discuss the motion. Second. Thank you. So we are now discussing the resolution. Who would like to begin?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
All right, so here we are. Madam Chair, this show tonight, we gotta get more professional on this. We do. I know it's our first meeting. There's a lot going on. A lot's been said. And again, I want to stress 2 points. One is constitutional county is done, and that's there. 2 is we're talking. I know the word gun safety doesn't say a lot, and there's a lot of not clarity in the resolution that it stands. I agree with that. I work on that. But we have issues, and mental health, everybody agrees to that. And I've been discussing this a lot with a lot of you in the crowd. Clearly I missed a few, but I've been discussing this a lot. And we found one that we do like. There's no tax piece on the gun safes and the gun locks. We found that one. There's more we can find. And so we're going to the 10th, I heard a lot from that group. And it was a very diverse group, and it does show the diversity of this county. And tonight, the same thing went on. A little bit more energy, but the same thing went on. A lot more information, and a lot more solutions. I always say, if you're going to come with a problem, come with a solution. Many of you came with solutions or recommended things that you feel would help out this resolution. That is why, I want to make the friendly amendment to this, and that we do look at this next week. We do give it a week. Same thing you just said. Because I don't want this to be a partisan, issue. This is a bipartisan issue. This is about our constituents. This is about you. And it does allow us, thank you, I got one of those, appreciate it. It does allow us to really look at what you said, and we can still go back to the tapes and take, who don't have that? And take what was even said on the 10th and modify this. I'm telling you guys right now, and you all agree that we do need to look at some form of protection and say that we all talk about a lot of different things here today for a very long time in the snow, all right? I'm not here to defend you. I should be the only angry person in the room because that's my name, all right? Work with us on this. It's not about me. I'm one of eight. But I do want this to be a united board and working for the citizens. And there's a lot of trust we got to build with you guys, but you guys got to give us a chance too, all right? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Bailey?
I have several things that I need to say. One is, Supervisor Angry said what you just said. I think we do no service to our community when we disagree in an ugly way. We do no service. And we have to show the community upon this board that we're going to be respectful of each other. And so, I don't have a problem with us discussing this later. I agree with Supervisor Angry. This is not about constitutional rights. I agree with you. But what I do want to say is, when we are coming together as a board for this community, let's do it in a respectful way. Let's do that. Let's start right there. Because in the discussions, we've been called names, and I think that's not good. But I think that this is an opportunity for us to show cohesiveness in our county. And so, Madam Chair, with all due respect to you, not because you are beautiful, but because you are, let's move in a continuing way as we move forward.
Supervisor Franklin?
Yeah, so first of all, very exciting. I do want to say, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming and sharing your thoughts. Even if we find ourselves on different sides of the issue, this process is very important, and I don't take that lightly. We're here for a reason. We're here for you, and so we do appreciate you all coming out. Expressing your opinion on this particular topic. One thing that was not explicitly stated, but that I gathered from all the comments is that we all love Prince William County. We all want to move this county forward. And what I would recommend to all of us as we leave this place is to make sure that regardless on what side of the issue we fall, we figure out with regards to whether you want to call it gun control, gun safety, supporting the Second Amendment, that we really sit down together and figure out what does that mean with regards to our communities. Exactly what does that mean? We have hard lines on both sides of the issue, but like Reverend Archer said, we ought to really figure out how we can bridge the gap and get rid of the divide. So, it's probably clear where I am on this issue. I think we have, in fact, heard from a very core group, not only tonight, but back in December before I was even on the board. And whatever decision this board comes up with in terms of whether we keep it, the vote for tonight or move it forward, we just need to make sure that, we understand each other, we respect each other. But I think that this issue has been talked about on several occasions. It's not going to go away whether we vote tonight or next week. And so really managing expectations is what we need to discuss. Whether we kick it a week from now, the issue doesn't go away. It's always going to be an issue. The question is, how do we talk about the issue? And how do we really sit down and get rid of the lines that we've drawn in the sand about this issue? So I just wanted to share my thoughts about that. Again, you all probably know from my background kind of where I am on this. I do believe that gun safety is important, but that doesn't mean I want to take away anyone's guns. It just means that we need to figure out how to come together to keep our community safe, whatever that means.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just for point of clarification, if the board is talking about continuing this to another meeting, the, calendar that we adopted tonight, your next evening meeting is February 4th. So if the board wants to hear this next Tuesday, I would recommend that the motion include a motion to add a 7:30 session on January 14th at the McCourt Building at One County Complex.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor, actually Supervisor Brody hasn't had a chance to speak yet.
Sure, so I want to first ditto everything that Supervisor Franklin just said, but for my clarification for so I can understand what's going on right now. So it sounds to me like Supervisor Angry offered a motion. It also sounds to me like Supervisor Bailey may have seconded it, but I just want to make sure I know what's going on.
He actually said friendly amendment, it wasn't a motion, so I was gonna ask him to clarify that. If you would like to clarify that, Supervisor Angry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was my motion, and I'd like to amend my friendly amendment.
Is it a friendly or a motion?
Well, it's a motion, a friendly amendment to the motion. Well, I guess I need the motion. I'm the motion.
Okay. And what is your motion, Supervisor?
Is to, so my motion is, I want to actually table this until the 4th February meeting. I don't think we need to add another evening session. That's not to me. I'm just going off of what the county attorney said.
We're seconding, Supervisor Angry's friendly amendment. To February 4th.
Madam Chair.
Discussion. It would be in the, discussion, Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, I would be supportive of that. I think what would be important is if we can task our lobbyists in Richmond to come and present to the board at some point some of the different ideas, some of the different legislations that's being proposed down in Richmond, so we can react and we can take positions. I like the idea of us being able to actually react to specific ideas that are going on instead of more general ideas. So I would definitely be in support of that, but let's not waste our time between now and then. Let's get some education on the bills that are being proposed down in Richmond.
Can we have our lobbyists come and present to us? Is that a possibility?
Yes, yes, we can do that.
Rather than the legislature in terms of expediency and understanding, that would bring a point of clarity to us.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can we also
Supervisor
consult the experts that sit on our weapons control board?
you would like to do, we can definitely
Yes.
do that too. Well, I don't, Prince William County is always ground zero, isn't it? You know, we're always like right at the flux of everything, you know, of the change. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, which is actually makes us an exciting and wonderful, vibrant place to live. You know, we all manage to get along even though we have different ideas and we come from different places. You know, so I'm actually, halfway through tonight, I got really excited. I'm like, well, I get to hear from 135 citizens tonight. Hear their opinions, and that's wonderful because we have people who are engaged, and I appreciate that. For me personally, my stance is supporting legislation that doesn't try to take away anyone's Second Amendment rights. It just comes to some kind of middle ground where we can work on violence prevention. That is all I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to take away anyone's Second Amendment rights. I know people think it's a but that is just not how I feel. And so I am willing to, we can vote right now on postponing until February. Yes, Mr. Martino.
Madam Chair, for your consideration,
Yes.
talking about this issue. Earlier tonight, we didn't have any land use issues for you to consider during January, which is why we took 7:30 off the agenda for the 21st. You do have land use items that are expected to come forward on the 4th, and it would be too much in one evening. So we'd be moving one or the other. I would offer for your consideration putting 7:30 on the 21st back on, or now 7:30 on the 28th. Either way, we can have David Westcott, our legislative affairs individual come forward and brief you on what has been introduced down in general session.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Henry.
I'd like to amend my fairly motion.
I thought the whole point of everything tonight was to send a message to
January 21st.
Add the evening.
They can do whatever they want. Well, if they can influence it now before.
Any other discussion, Supervisor? Yes.
I would like to go on public record as saying that we finally got enough trees on the inside. So the outside would like to make some noise for us. We appreciate that as well.
Thank you very much.
So it sounds like we're in general agreement to move this to the 21st. And
Well, no, man. What's that?
yes, and in support of the board to act as a cohesive group. And it would be nice to have a unanimous vote on our first contentious vote, where we've come to some middle ground where we can further discuss this on the 21st. And also get input from citizens with the idea that how can we find some middle ground in this area? How can we do that? If people say never, that's going to be a problem. We need to find middle ground. We have people on both sides of this. So, please vote.
Represent us!
We want